if you can just, for the record, if you can have the roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Certainly. So on behalf of the Secretary Treasurer, members that are present, I'll call out your name. Please indicate your presence. Chair Chadha is present. Member Culp.
Present.
Present. Thank you. Even though I can see the video, it's still nice to hear the audio. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Peter.
Member Marquez.
Present.
Member Power.
Present.
Thank you. You have 4 members present, Mr. Chair. You have quorum.
Thank you. Again, to all the viewers, the staff, clerk's office, and my fellow colleagues, sorry for the disturbance. We are still having a little bit difficulties. This is the new normal. One of the members is trying to join, so she will be joining us a little bit later in a few minutes. So I'll proceed with the meeting. Good morning and welcome to the virtual meeting of Brampton's Committee of Adjustment. My name is Ron Chetta, Committee Chair for today's meeting. The Committee of Adjustment is composed of 5 citizen members who are appointed by Brampton City Council. The committee is authorized by the Ontario Planning Act to consider application for minor variances from the provisions of City of Brampton zoning bylaw. The committee also considered applications for consent, sometimes referred to as land division applications, which includes severing a new lot from an existing lot, a lot addition, easements, mortgages, or leases in excess of 21 years. This meeting will be held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended by Bill 187. Municipal Emergency Act 2020 and an order in council from March 2020, which amended the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and prohibits organized public events of more than 10 people. City Council has authorized virtual meetings of its committees with all members participating remotely to facilitate the continuation of city business during the current pandemic. We will begin the meeting with City Clerk calling the roll for attendees and today's meeting that we just did. As we all continue to cope with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the Committee of Adjustment will proceed by conducting virtual meetings to support physical distancing and comply with public gathering restrictions while ensuring the business of the municipality can continue. In-person attendance at this meeting is severely restricted. Members and most staff are participating electronically in this meeting. The public can still access and participate in the meeting by a few measures. Number 1, watching this meeting remotely through the city's live stream and playback of the archived video stream after today's meeting has concluded. Second, prior to start of the meeting, pre-registering with the City Clerk's office to speak as a delegation before the committee during this virtual meeting to share your comments and provide your input on specific agenda item on today's meeting agenda. And third, prior to start today's meeting, sending written audio or video submissions to the City Clerk's office to be provided to the committee for consideration during this virtual meeting as your input on a specific agenda item. A final reminder for member of committee before we start to consider today's agenda business, please ensure your video is off and microphone is mute until you are assigned to the floor. Then you can turn both on when you speak. This will help ensure only one person is speaking and at one time and minimize other background disruptions during the meeting. Before we consider today's applications, the committee has some procedural matter to take care of. The first is adoptions of the minute. The minutes of the meeting held July 28, 2020 has been included in today's agenda. Committee members, are there any question, comment, concerns about these minutes? Hearing none, seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to adopt these, to approve these minutes? Moved by Mr. Cope.
Yes.
Seconded by Ms. Marcus. So I will take this. Anyone against? Anyone opposing? Seeing none. It's carried unanimously. Yeah. The next we have is declaration of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing, hearing none. Now we move on to withdrawals and deferrals. We received a letter dated August 10, 2020 from Mr. Robert Paul Hunter. Applicant and the owner of the property located at 10828 Tarburn Road, advising of the withdrawal or application B-2020-0009. For the record, that application is withdrawn. For this meeting, we have a written request for a deferral of applications B-19-017 and A-19-121 for the property at 67 Main Street South from Western Consulting, authorized agent for the application. Mr. Clerk, presentation, can start this presentation if we have the representative for 67 Main Street South.
Mr. Chair, I'll pull them into the meeting right now. I'm going to be pulling in Martin from Weston Consulting, Brianne Robinson from Weston Consulting. I'll be pulling in the applicant, Manaj, my apologies. And I'll be pulling in a representative for some of the residents, Heather Picken.
Sure. Once the agent speaks, then I have some written correspondence to share, to bring on record, and I'm sure there are many participants from the neighborhood, and I'll proceed accordingly.
And Mr. Chair, just to advise, Member Dorfler is now in the meeting and is connected. Her microphone is muted at the moment. And there are a number of other residents who have requested to speak on this item. And those residents, if the committee proceeds, will be brought in for their delegations. So in the session right now, for your information, is the property owner, Manaj Kapil, representatives for the applicant from Weston Consulting, Martin and Brianne, and Dave Kapil, former authorized agent, and a representative for some of the residents, Chris and Tony Hellick. The representative is Heather Picken.
Okay, may I ask the representative for this property from Weston Consulting, Martin, if you can please come and.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you for the time this morning. With me this morning is Brianne Robinson from my office, and she will be making the presentation for the deferral. Brianne?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Great. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of committee. My name is Brianne Robinson. I'm a planner with Weston Consulting, the planning consultant for the property owner of 67 Main Street South. Application B-19-017 was made to the Committee of Adjustment to sever a parcel of land with an easement for right-of-way purposes. Additionally, application A-19-121 was submitted in conjunction with the consent application to request variances related to the severed parcel. Weston Consulting received circulation comments on Wednesday, August 12th, and the peer review of the arborist report late in the afternoon on Friday, August 14th. Through correspondence with city staff regarding the arborist report on August 14th, we were advised that planning staff would be requesting a deferral of our application to allow applicants to address the recent concerns. We support this position and have approached our arborist to provide the requested revisions. However, given the timing, we were unable to provide an updated arborist report for today's review. Based on this, I would like to formally request that committee grants a deferral of both application B19-017 and A19-121 to satisfy the concerns of staff. Thank you.
Okay, committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none, just for the record, I would like to, before I go to staff, I would like to bring some correspondence on the record. So please be with me. I'm going to try my level best. There are many attachments. And also, please forgive me if I pronounce anyone's name not properly. I try my best. So first we have from Nick and Jennifer Sansalon from 76 Elizabeth Street South, stating their concerns and writing down the letter in opposition. They are a neighborhood for almost 21 years. The next we have is Chris and Tony Halleck. I believe they are also present, so we'll go to them later on. They have also shown their opposition to this application. Next correspondence we received from Alan and Carol McClelland from 66 Elizabeth Street South. They have also shown their opposition. And the next we have is from Cindy and Bev Hartzenberg from 79 Elizabeth Street South. They have also shown their opposition to this application. The next we have from Catherine Sturt from 73 Main Street South. They have also shown their opposition to this application. And then we have Ado Van Malcolm from 77 Elizabeth Street South. They have also shown their opposition. And the next we have the letter from Kimberly Sim from 72 Elizabeth Street South, and they have also sent the letter in opposition. And next we have Claudio and Anne Liz Fractura. My apologies again. Owner of 70 Elizabeth Street South. They have also sent the letter in opposition. And we have Patty Lee from 65 Main Street South also sent the letter in opposition with their concerns. And just lost before I okay, so the last we have is we have a correspondence. We have a letter from Lawrence Stevenson, LLP, Heather Picken. I believe she's present. And also we have a letter from Nina Asusa stating their concerns and sending a letter in opposition from 125 Elizabeth Street South. We have Jean Archdeacon, my apologies. There's a bit, the letter is missing at the end, from 82 Main Street South, sending their concerns and letter in opposition regarding traffic and other concerns. So far, these are the letters we have. I tried my best to go through all the attachments. I can see the neighbors have shown their greater interest in this. Anyone who wishes to speak, you're more than welcome about this. And I'd like to go to staff about their position, and then we will start one by one. Just keep in mind, this is a deferral request, and this application right now, the committee is not going to make the decision on this application right now, because first we will deal with a deferral request. However, if the deferral request is not granted by the committee, then we will proceed. So anytime any neighbor, with all due respect, when you come, and there were many members, they came, I remember last year. So we do have all those comments. I personally refreshed my memory by checking all those comments at that time, yesterday and the day before. So any new information, you are more than welcome. But I'm not saying that anyone who already been here, they cannot come and talk. But we'll, just for the betterment of everybody is better, if there's any new information or new comments, you are more than welcome to speak, not only once, but if you miss any comment, you're more than welcome to come back. So having said that, I'll first go to the city staff about this request and their position, and then Mr. Clerk, or the host of this meeting, will bring the concerned persons one by one. Staff, please bring your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Carmen Caruso, Manager of Development Services. City staff last week received a peer review of the arborist report that was submitted by the applicant. And we just received that, as it noted, last week. I think it was late last week. And so staff hasn't had the opportunity to review the peer review. So we would like to have that opportunity. So in light of the new information that has come in, we would support a deferral on this matter.
So, Mr. Chair, it's Peter Fay. So you said after staff, I presume there's no questions, we'll then proceed. So we do have a rather lengthy delegation list. And as you mentioned, it was in regard to the deferral. Now, we did have a request late yesterday from the representative for Chris and Tony Hellick, Heather Pickin, whose correspondence you did refer to be able to address the committee on the deferral. So with our list right now for speakers, is Chris and Tony Hellick, followed by Heather Pickin, but with the indulgence of committee, I think Heather Pickin wishes to speak first. And we also do have, just for your information, Manoj Kapil and Dave Kapil, who were listed on to speak to this item, but I take it from your remarks that you heard from the representatives for the property owner Weston Consulting on the deferral. So now you wish to hear from, I guess, the residents in terms of the deferral request and go through the list. Is that correct? Oh, sorry, your microphone is muted, Mr. Chair.
My apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to proceed with the representative and the neighbors. May I know the numbers of total speakers or the presentations, Mr. Clerk? 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 people at this point.
Okay, let's start one by one.
Okay. So through you, Mr. Chair, Heather Pickin, if you wish to proceed.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Ms. Pickin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I have submitted 2 written reports and the peer review arborist report for the committee's consideration. I won't get into all of that because right now we're just speaking to the deferral. The applicant has already had a 1-year deferral for these applications. During that year, he has submitted and amended his arborist report for the city's review and comment several times. I am told 5 times. I am not certain of that number, but city staff can clarify that. Our clients and many of the neighbors have raised concerns about the trees since the very outset of this application. In fact, it was one of the main concerns of the Heritage Board Committee in January, resulting in its members rejecting the recommendations of staff at that time and passing a motion that the applications should be refused by this Committee of Adjustment. Why did it have to take our clients spending their own money to hire an independent arborist to conduct a peer review of the applicant's arborist report for the city's planning staff to decide that these concerns needed to be addressed? The city's planning staff and the applicant's own planners have placed such great importance on the fact that the extensive tree canopy that exists on these heritage lots must be preserved so that the adverse visual impacts to the heritage attributes of the area are eliminated. This was a very significant and important point for both the applicant's planners and the city staff. Both the city's planning staff and the applicant's planners know, or ought to know, about the city's own tree preservation bylaw and the provisions of the Forestry Act and the requirements in regard to boundary trees, requiring consent of neighbors before such boundary trees can be removed. Yet both the city staff and the applicant's planning staff were prepared to accept a deficient arborist report that says nothing about these requirements. I am also aware that the city's own landscape architect, Danica Quinn, had concerns before the planning report was made public, as she said so in an email to my client delivered at 4:31 p.m. on August 13th, 2020. The white arborist report, which is the applicant's arborist report, was not submitted until 1 week ago, which left our client's expert very little time to review it. And she still found deficiencies and inconsistencies and serious omissions and problems. Our clients are frustrated, the members of the neighborhood are frustrated at the manner in which this applicant has processed these applications and staff's reaction to them. The members of the neighborhood have taken work off today to participate. They have ridden a roller coaster of stress and upset as this applicant keeps getting further opportunities at the plate, so to speak. Why should another deferral be granted at this late hour? There are numerous objections, numerous information on how the applications offend the official plan and secondary plan policies. The arborist report is another example. The heritage impacts are significant. Our clients request that these applications should be finally refused. Thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Picken. The
next speaker, Mr. Chair, is Chris and Tony Hellick. Chris, you are in the session, and I see you're on the phone. You can just unmute your phone, and you should be able to speak.
There we go.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Fay, and good morning to the committee. These applications really should have been turned down right from the beginning, as none of it is good planning. The additional reports submitted by the applicant were not conclusive. The process has been fraught with numerous flaws and difficulties, and it has caused us and our neighbors anxiety, worries, and expenses that could well have been avoided. Why doesn't the planning committee just admit their lack of due diligence and recommend that these applications be refused? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Ido Van Belkom. Ido, you are in the system. Please go ahead. So Ido, if you just wish to unmute your microphone. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm just going to read the letter that I submitted, if that's all right. I think it's important that it comes from a voice and you hear it rather than just a piece of paper. First of all, I'm glad that so many area residents have signed up and are participating in this Committee of Adjustment meeting in regards to 67 Main Street South. With so many of my neighbors here in one place, it makes it easier for me to let them know of my plans to build 2 townhomes in my backyard. Now, that might seem ridiculous at first, but if the variances in this case are allowed, I believe truly anything could be possible in the future. When I first opened the mailer notifying me of this meeting, and I saw the words minor variance in the package, I thought the plans had been changed or amended in some way to tone down the scale or scope of the project. But no, a minor variance to my mind is something in the neighborhood of less than 20%. But the variances being asked for are both upwards of 50%, with one of them nearing 75%. This is out of the realm of minor variances and is in the territory of major or significant or just look the other way. I have had some experience with this committee. Some 10 years ago, I built a garage on my property and had to come in front of the Committee of Adjustment because I needed to remove a tree in order to build the garage in the spot I wanted. The tree was totally on my property, not an especially rare tree and not even very old or large. Nevertheless, the committee voted not to grant me a variance, and I had to build the garage closer to my house. But my experience that day was also of another citizen who had done something to his driveway that was in contravention of some bylaw. The man appeared before the committee and had letters from his neighbors that said they had no problem with what he had done. In the end, the committee voted down his application because it contravened the bylaw. The matter, it seemed, was black and white to the committee at the time. Fast forward 10 years, we have the issue of 67 Main Street South. I don't attend Committee of Adjustment meetings regularly, but I imagine it is out of the ordinary to see so many citizens opposed to a single building's construction, as is the case in this instance. So many people opposed and so much variance required that one wonders, why are we even here to discuss the matter? After all, like the example I just gave, this appears to be pretty straightforward. However, this is a fight and the outcome could easily go either way. Why is that? I believe this is likely because of who the applicant is. Mr. Kapil is a prominent businessman, pretty big deal in Brampton, who has a great deal of influence at City Hall. I know this is a bold statement, and you might wonder how I can say that with confidence. Well, it's because Mr. Kapil himself has told at least 2 of my neighbors that he is well connected at City Hall. Plenty of people say they know people downtown or have friends in high places. So what exactly does that mean here? A quick search of YouTube for Mayor Brown's 2018 election night win will show a video of Mr. Kapil being the very first person to publicly congratulate the newly elected mayor as he is introduced and walks on stage in front of his cheering supporters. Kudos to Mr. Kapil. He is not bragging. That is pretty much the embodiment of being well connected at City.
I would like to request to the member, we are having this meeting and, it's better if we merely discuss about, I don't want to comment on anything out of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
If you can please keep it, all your references in regards to in regards to this particular variances being asked by this applicant, I'll greatly appreciate. But please continue and thank you.
All right. Well, I submitted this letter well in advance of the meeting, and I assume that people had read it and vetted it, but I will continue. I'm thinking that townhomes in my backyard will have to wait since I have no connection to City Hall other than being a resident, pays his taxes, volunteers his time to try and make his community better, and does his best to follow the rules. On the other hand, the applicant is confident, he has reason to be. Now, all of this might seem to the applicant it's a significant pushback, but perhaps it's just a simple annoyance. In the end, it comes down to you, sir, and your committee. Will you consider the application the same way you consider the application of the man who modified his driveway, or like me, who wanted to cut down a tree in his own property? In other words, are you going to consider this application as if it were coming from any other citizen, or will you consider this a special request from a prominent businessman in the city and a close friend of the mayor, while disregarding the concerns of a vast majority of residents who will be negatively affected by your decision? I simply ask that the Committee of Adjustment do the right thing. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next, Mr. Chair, we have Jennifer and Nick. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Jennifer, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
In agreement with our neighbors and are opposed to the severance of this lot and a new building in our own backyard. We also have tree canopy at risk should this project be approved. And as well as it truly requires more than a so-called minor variance, we are concerned that this will set a precedent for subsequent abuses of the bylaws in our heritage neighborhood. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next we have is Kimberly. Kimberly, please go ahead.
I would ask the host to please speak that loud so we can clear who's coming and their name.
Sorry about that. Kimberly?
Did you say Kimberly?
Yes, Kimberly, you're next. You can go ahead, please.
Sorry, yeah, okay. So I pretty much agree with everything that the neighbors have said. I know you don't want this to be something that is getting off topic, but I think it's important to consider the bias of the committee and of the members in the city. So personally, I just think that there's a few different issues for us. Of course, the trees. The variances, as someone else stated, are really large. For the minimum width is supposed to be 75 feet of the lot. This person wants it to be 18 feet. That puts that right next to our house, which I think is completely unacceptable. I think that they should have to get our permission for this to happen and not the city's. The other variance is that the rear yard is supposed to be 65 feet, but this application wants the rear yard to be 26 feet, which again is going to put their yard right in our backyard basically and take away from our rights as residents to have the downtown bylaws upheld. And then there's going to be issues with drainage, with water, and with lots of things if the house is that close to us. So personally, I feel like this shouldn't even be considered. And we've only moved here 7 months ago, and for this to be an issue already, I paid a premium for the lot to be far away from my neighbors, and for this to be considered is just not respectful of my property and my property taxes that I pay. Again, the point of the bylaws is, what's the point of having the bylaw if every neighbor around objects for valid reasons, and then still someone on the committee can just do whatever they want? If it does go through, even though all of these things are happening, it will really show. Again, I'm not going to go into the things that I've heard around the connections and who someone's connected to, but it's 2020, and if this does go through, it will completely disrupt our faith in the city, the councillor, as well as the mayor. And we will continue to fight and to raise awareness in the lack of objectivity and the corruption going on internally. That's all I have to say.
Kimberly, respectfully, you made some comments, and I understand the neighborhood's frustration, but this is the process we are following. We live in this city and we take great pride, all the members, or we are associated with the city.
I hope so. Yes, I hope everybody is objective.
So we all have a role to play, and public participation is the key in every, especially when something like this comes forward.
Good.
And I really want to thank each and every member of the public for taking the time off from their busy schedule, especially in this pandemic, that they are stating their concerns.
Good.
But at the same time, you know, there are other aspects which we don't look into it. Our job is to go whatever, all based on the forecast. We get to hear the staff side, we get to hear the applicant, and we are hearing you. And that at the end.
As long as you're being objective.
So
You're objective.
under this committee of adjustment criteria, we, as a member or as an applicant, under the bylaws, we have the provisions. So you, as a concerned neighbor, coming forward and bringing your concerns, we greatly appreciate that. Help us understanding all aspects. But I can tell you one thing on behalf of this committee, we are here for the betterment of our city, and that's why we are playing this role. Thank you for coming forward. If you wish to add something else, otherwise, thank you, and we'll get to hear the next participant.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol and Alan. Please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that you're asking us to comment strictly on the deferral of this application, not the merits of it at this time.
Well, if you have, Mr. McCullough, if you have some comments which you think is relevant to make, you're more than welcome. But as you already said, without even saying me or repeating me, that at this point, what we are dealing in the part, because the applicant and the city staff, they both believe that they need a bit more time, which I will be asking at the end, what are their intentions? But you said it clearly, but please proceed. I'd like to hear from you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I will restrict my comments and focus on the deferral as you originally had indicated. This process is well past 12 months, which was quite generous by the Committee of Adjustment to allow that amount of time for this applicant. The applicant and their professionals, this planning group has been on side since at least last fall. The Heritage Impact Assessment was submitted and returned a number of times by the city, redo. The arborist report that was contracted again by the applicant was submitted, and comments passed back, and then a revised update was done on the arborist report. The city staff have spent a tremendous amount of time in reviewing these documents. The neighbors themselves have all spent hours upon hours in documenting what we think contravenes the official plan and the bylaws. I really don't see how the committee should grant more time, and I don't understand why the city needs more time to look at this. It's almost unbelievable that the revised arborist report is dumped on the laps of us neighbors. I think maybe 10 or 12 business days ago, and we're expected to respond to it, actually have, and then the city needs more time. It just doesn't seem equitable. But again, the amount of time that we have spent as neighbors, the stress that we have been put through, some of the people that have spoken have, I think Kimberly Sim is one of the households on Elizabeth Street. They have a 600 square foot home on Elizabeth Street as the foundation. And this person wants to build a 5,500 square foot home in his backyard facing them. It's absolutely ridiculous that the city is spending time and money to hear this, and that I just don't believe that any further extension should be granted. So I'll limit my comments to the deferral, but I would agree with comments made, and particularly Heather Pickens' comments. And I don't believe any further time should be granted to this applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask anyone on this call, if they are not muted, please mute their microphone, because I'm still hearing some background noises. Anyway, thank you, Mr. McCullough, for coming forward and understanding the concerns. I'll ask the host to mute if it's not necessary for someone, I guess, speaking at the back. Host, you there, please?
I think that's good. So the person's on mute now. Next, we have Betty Lee. Betty Lee, please go ahead.
Sorry, hi there.
Hello, Betty.
First, with respect, hello?
Hi, please go ahead.
First, with respect to the deferment, there's been, it looks like numerous studies done by various groups with respect to the application, and there's been a bounce back. Even the most recent arborist report from the applicant, describes trees that will have to be removed and potential damages to a lot of the trees present. So I'm not sure why the city needs further kind of information, further review of the bounce back report with respect to that. There are going to be trees that are damaged. It'd be good to find out what the further information they need about the tree issues to make further recommendations or decisions with respect to that. With respect to further deferment, there have been a lot of issues that have already been brought up previous meetings and current meetings to suggest that there are going to be a lot of adverse effects to the neighborhood as well as the immediate neighbors. I know for me, I will not like having a big, huge house looking over my backyard. There are some trees there, but they are not there all year round. And the trees do show thinning, and definitely I would lose a lot of privacy. I'm also concerned with the big footprint, the effect of drainage, flooding, and the immediate, I don't know what the best word to say, impact on the landscape. I've read one of the other applicants' letters that is immediate to that they've had flooding because of the work that's been done. Also, I'm concerned about all the traffic that's going to go down that laneway, which is their main access to that house, because as far as it appears that they only have an easement or use to the main street, and most of their traffic goes through the back. So I'm concerned about a lot of the effect that's going to have with all the activity that's going to happen there. Thank you.
Hello, host.
Thank you. So next we have Claudia here, Claudia and Anna. Please go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Claudio. I am the owner of 70 Elizabeth Street South. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I was going to speak to you today about my, I think I itemized 15 concerns with this application, which I articulated in my letters of July 2019 and August 2020. I was going to talk to you about how I spoke to various professional designers and planners who work at very large multidisciplinary firms like ACOM, WSP, HDR, and how these planners and designers at these firms would state that this particular application would never be approved in Markham or Oakville or Burlington. But last night, after spending many hours reading all the well-written letters and emails submitted by my neighbors on Elizabeth Street, Main Street, lawyers and real estate agents, all of them objected to both applications, I thought about this more. And I want to take this opportunity today really to commend my neighbors for their bravery, their courage, their passion, and their willingness to be a voice. These neighbors are the exact leaders our city needs to move us forward and to compete with the Oakvilles, with the Markhams, and with the Burlingtons. I'm proud of my neighbors for standing up this application, and I hope the Committee of Adjustment will follow in their footsteps and reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudio, for coming forward and bringing your concerns. Host, if you can please call the next
Thank you,
person.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And if
Next,
you can
we
please
have
speak with
Craig
loud,
and Val.
that's why I have to call you every time. My apologies, but if you can please.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
perfect. Thank you. Next, we have Craig and Valerie. Craig and Valerie, please go ahead.
It's Craig and Valerie at 78 Elizabeth Street. I had the same concerns as most people here, with, especially with the minor variance. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Okay. The lot width is less than a quarter of what it should be, and the rear lot setbacks less than a half of what it should be. And if you can change the bylaws by that much, why have them? It just doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the other things I had down have been talked about already, but the chairman just said that the committee's there for the betterment of the city of Brampton. And how is approving this for the betterment of the city of Brampton? And I just wondered if the committee has given any consideration to the loss of value of all the neighbors when a monster home's built in someone's backyard. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing your concerns. I guess for, as you mentioned about the monster home, I would request you to please watch from the archive sections all those videos we had about that particular property, and you will have, I guess, better understanding about how committee conduct their meetings. Whether that's, I had the opportunity to serve for the previous committee, and at that time they came forward with all due respect. They exercised their right, and the committee, the outcome came whatever the committee felt at that time. But I would encourage you to, if you can watch those videos, and that'll be better understanding that how we take great pride by living in this beautiful city. Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, I don't need to watch the video to know that a 5,500 or 1,000 square foot house or 100 square foot house is in someone's backyard, 25 or 17 feet from someone's backyard, is going to be a good thing for the neighborhood. I think that's going to reduce the value of at least 6 houses in the area, and by a great margin. And I just think it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Chair, we have David. David, please go ahead. David Shillett.
Hello, David.
David?
Building permits being approved or not approved, and homes going up, and huge homes.
Sorry, David, 1 second. Host, if you can please mute your microphone when the presentation is coming, so that'll help to reduce some background noise, whether it's you or anybody else's.
Okay, are we good to go?
Yes,
please, David.
Okay, as I said, I was just tuning in to see, because of a general interest in the downtown Brampton area, of building permits being granted for monster homes that just don't fit in the neighborhood. And this one obviously caught my eye. We walked by there every night with the dog and saw the sign. And I just can't believe that's come down to this. And listening to all the complaints, the only force for this are the owner himself and his paid companies to approve this. And generally, I mean, I get the feeling it's being approved because of his friendship with the mayor. And this gentleman here, that's the chair, seems to be of that opinion too. Well, not of that opinion. He seems to be backing the applicant. Yeah, that's my take on this.
David, thank you for your short, sweet conclusion about myself, and I can't comment on anybody else. But this application is not approved yet. We are in that process. So it would be very short-sighted for anyone to comment and think about that. I have wonderful committee members, and after hearing all of the neighbors, and which I always appreciate when the neighbors come and they bring all their aspects, and because they are the ones who live in those immediate neighborhoods and bring their experience and their concerns. That's how this staff get to hear all the neighbors. They make their opinion. So as the committee members, when we hear all sides of the stories. So I can.
Well, I'm commenting on based on personal experience, what I had to go through 30 some odd years ago when I put an addition on my house, and when I had to go through to get a variance and get it approved, and nothing compared to what these people are asking for. And 10 years ago, to get a tree taken down that was struck by lightning that fell on telephone wires, when I had to go through to get that tree removed, it was leaning against the telephone wires. And it's just ridiculous. I can't believe this got this far, you know? So.
Well, I'm sympathized if you had to go through some hard procedure at that time. However, I was not there at that time, or I don't think so any of the committee members, and I'm not even sure to.
It was a long time ago. None of you were there. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, David, appreciate that you come forward and bring it in.
Thank you.
Next week. Please, if you can call the next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next, we have Lynn and David, but I don't see them on the list. They are on the list of delegation, but I don't see them on the list.
So you can call the next person then.
Sorry, just give me a moment, please.
Sure.
Okay, so we see call-in user number 6. If that's Lynn and David, your microphone.
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Good morning. My name is Lynn Rudolph, and my husband's name is David Rose, and we live at 88 Elizabeth Street South in Brampton. I've lived in this historical Brampton for over 35 years. Firstly, I would like to thank the committee for allowing me to voice my opinion for opposing this extremely upsetting application to subdivide the heritage lot at 67 Main Street in order to make it possible to build a family, in quotation marks, structure on what has been a single-family dwelling for many, many years. Secondly, I would like to say I'm disheartened over the fact that I only saw the signage posted at the end of the laneway of 67 Main Street just last week regarding the Committee of Adjustments meeting for today. I feel it's not appropriate or acceptable for a meeting of this important to be held during the month of August while so many people and neighbors are away and unaware of that a meeting of this magnitude is taking place. I also feel more residents of the area should have been given written notice and notified by mail that this meeting was taking place. I know for a fact that many more of the residents and neighbors of this community would have joined in to this very important meeting. Perhaps in the future, neighbors that are outside the radius of 60 meters should be notified in writing of the upcoming Committee of Adjustments meeting. Next, I would just like to state that there are many reasons why we are opposing subdividing of this heritage lot. Number one, extensive environmental damage to the neighbors and surrounding area. Already flooding has occurred after work was already done by the applicants. During the construction period, there's going to be a lot more extensive damage to the existing neighbors and roadways upon entering and exiting the property. Number two, there will be no recognition of the heritage value of the land surrounding the present heritage home. The city's idea of saving the historic nature of the laneway would be a joke. What kind of laneway would be left or preserved once huge trucks have carved out this existing laneway after hauling out truckloads of soil that have been excavated from digging the new foundation of this proposed structure? Number three, ever since the damage caused by the 2013 ice storm in the downtown core, it has been a priority of both the city and the province to protect the current tree canopy and enhance it. How does this proposal, with a minimum of 10 and possibly up to 20 mature trees being removed, advance the stated policy of both the city and the province? And so important, how will the removal of these healthy trees affect the neighbors aesthetically? Number four, there is a beauty and charm in this historical downtown neighborhood, a charm that you can't find anywhere else in Brampton. The architecture, the prized lot sizes, and the tree canopy are why homeowners are attracted to this area, as well as the fact that when someone purchases a home in this historical residential heritage area of single-family dwellings, you are purchasing your home with peace of mind that the ambience of this area will not change. When people purchase in this area, it is with the intent to restore the beauty of the existing structures, not to remove here and destroy single-family dwelling home and lot sizes. Number five, if people are inclined to purchase homes with the intent to subdivide lots and build massive homes within this historical downtown area, it should not be allowed by the city. In closing, if the Committee of Adjustments allows this severance to go through, not only will Chris's family home of 20 years be affected, but it will decimate this beautiful, unique, charming, historical heritage neighborhood. It will be the beginning of the end to what we call historical downtown Brampton. Thank you.
Thank you. Who do we have next?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the end of the delegation for this item.
I see some comments there by Ms. Micken and also by Chris. I want a chance to give my full comments if that's what you're hearing today.
Sorry.
So if you can bring back Chris.
Okay, sure, just give me a moment. Okay, Chris, you're on mute now. You can please go ahead.
Request that I have a couple of extra minutes aside from the 5 minutes allotted. I am going to cover what's very pertinent to you putting off this application, because I'd like to talk a little bit about the tree report and the report that we submitted.
Sorry, Chris, I'm hearing some echo at the back.
Okay.
So maybe somebody need to be mute or...
Yeah, it could be someone else because it looks like mine's fine. Is that better?
No, I don't see. Hosta, can you please mute everybody except Chris?
Yeah, just give me a moment, please. Okay, please go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you very much. I was just respectfully requesting that I be allowed a little more than my 5-minute time because I am going to cover some of the arborist report that we submitted.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And thank you
sorry, Chris, you already, I think you already spoke once, right?
I spoke to the fact that you were going to defer this motion, and I thought that's all we were speaking on, so I didn't give you any other comments.
Sure. If you like to speak about arborist report, because this staff and the applicant is asking a deferral on the basis of that report, you're more than welcome to comment about that. And I can see if Ms. Picken wants to speak in regards to that, you're welcome as well.
Yes, so I'll give you my full reports as the other delegates. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to voice how utterly perplexed we and our neighbors are that these applications are even being considered. There is vigorous opposition to these applications, even more so in the last few days since the city's recommendation was released. Had this meeting been at City Hall, when one could just show up, I suspect the room would be jam-packed. There are stacks of impassioned letters of objection from 2019 and 2020, but there is not one letter in support. This is very impressive when there is the assumption out there that they won't be allowed to do that. If meeting less than 75% of one minimum requirement and 60% of the other is in fact minor, why then even have zoning bylaw requirements? Zoning requirements can be varied by the COA when they are minor. This application does not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw when there are so many impacts. They must consider their cumulative effect on the property and neighboring properties, loss of important heritage value of the property, including lot size, landscape features, mature old trees, change in the streetscape, just to name a few. I found no COA variances granted in the past 3 years which have come anywhere close to offending the bylaw to such a degree. Variants have been allowed when they represent proper planning and when there is no major impact to the community or the city. This is definitely not true in this case. To permit a proposed development that only benefits the current property owner's needs without taking into account the long-term use of the land is not proper and orderly planning. This committee's first requirement for a deferral was for the applicant to provide a heritage impact study and present it to the Brampton Heritage Committee for support. Even after considering the city's recommendations, the Heritage Committee motioned to refuse to support these applications. Subsequently, there was an inappropriate political interference at City Hall to remove that motion, which would have been viewed as unfavorable to the applicant. I addressed this in a letter to the city clerk, Mr. Peter Fay, on February 25th, 2020. You actually have that letter in your agenda package. To date, I have not had a response to my letter. The Heritage Committee's recommendation matters, right? We know now that these applications are likely to garner support in a public forum for a heritage permit. This could be stopped right now by turning down these applications. The second reason for deferral was to allow the applicant to obtain a tree preservation report. During the tree assessment process, we allowed the applicant's arborist to enter our backyard, but were horrified that he hammered 7 plaques into our trees, indicating they are at risk of injury. Could they have been identified by a gentler, other manner? Was it done on purpose to damage our trees? Could that procedure be the beginning of the end for those trees? 2 of those trees are over 100 years old. The others are no less than 25 years old. This is an area of our yard which our grandkids call the playground. When I showed my 5-year-old granddaughter where the neighbors wanted to put their house, her immediate concern was, "But Grandma, where are they going to play?" Where indeed? The White Report solution to protect our trees is by installing 3/4-inch plywood and wood chips, making our backyard virtually unusable for months and months, both by us and our grandchildren. What would be left of the grass, the perennial flowers, the shrubs, and the trees when it was uncovered? Over 800 people went through our yard in one day as a part of the Brampton Garden Tour. Our backyard is an oasis that we have been lovingly cultivating and nurturing for over 20 years. How is it possible that a neighbor could jeopardize the health of our entire back garden? Those trees enhance the neighborhood and are part of the natural heritage of the downtown area. As my husband and I are no tree experts, we hired a consulting arborist to do a peer review of the White Report. Our arborist is from a reputable firm, Dugan and Associates. They were referred to us by the Ontario Agriculture College at the University of Guelph as being one of the very best. They unearthed many disturbing facts with the White Report, revealing extensive inconsistencies and omissions with its contents and its findings. The city planner failed to acknowledge any of our experts' opinion, but chose instead to use this flawed report in a condition to grant the applications. There is no planner acknowledgement that according to the White Report, development would result in the removal of every tree in the divided lot and injure as many as 16 mature trees on neighboring properties. To ignore our experts' critique of this assessment is an absolute travesty and a potential death sentence to the neighbors' trees. The White Report states that injury to the neighbors' trees will occur due to construction activities in their root zones. Root zone impacts can affect tree health and stability and result in tree dieback or death. The White Report only discusses root zone impacts in the context of the building foundation and driveway use. The true extent of the injury to the neighboring trees is actually unclear, as the construction activity on site must include the working envelope for construction vehicles, servicing locations, changes to existing grades and or service drainage, and compaction due to heavy equipment use of the driveway. Finally, based on the White Report, several trees are boundary trees where the ownership would be shared between the proposed development and the neighboring properties. Removal of these trees requires permission of both owners under the Forestry Act, and this is not discussed in the report. Ignoring the Forestry Act is not an option. The City of Brampton's tree preservation bylaw is also not discussed in the White Report. I can demonstrate with one quick example how flawed the applicant's arborist report is. Tree number 5 is our 100-year-old black walnut. I have no doubt that construction will kill this tree that is entirely in the middle of our backyard. Yet the White Report states that this tree will be removed. They have no right to remove our trees. In summary, the White Report does not appropriately identify or quantify impacts to neighboring trees. The impacts to the trees could therefore be much higher than portrayed in this report. This could wipe out the most mature part of our garden. The city's planners appear to have received the report from the applicant's arborist as simply checking a box. There are significant deficiencies in it, as confirmed by the city's own landscape architect expert, Danica Quinn, who was included in the circulation of the application for her comments and who has also reviewed our expert critique. Ms. Quinn confirmed in an email to me on August 13th, 2020, that our peer review, and I quote, is very much in line with the concerns I have raised. Why has planning staff ignored its own city expert and made no mention whatsoever as to the impact of relying on a flawed report? How is it possibly reasonable for the City of Brampton to receive a report 1 week before this hearing date and then just accept its content, even though its own expert and another highly qualified expert has raised serious concern? How is this a responsible or fair approach? In her comment, or pardon me, in her recommendation report, Ms. Swinfield did not consider nor address any comments that were submitted by the public, not ours and not our neighbors. We went to great lengths to review the Brampton official plan, secondary plan, zoning bylaw, and other pertinent planning documents, and provided comments, which we included, expressing our strong objection with respect to these applications. And lastly, the official plan, policies, and governing bylaws are there to safeguard the neighbors and the community. You, the members of the Committee of Adjustment, have this opportunity and responsibility to recognize the legitimate concerns of the community and uphold the purpose and intent of the official plan, policies, and the bylaws, and refuse these applications. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris. We have the Council, Ms. Pecken, if you would like to come forward and.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this indulgence, and I will try to limit my comments right now. You've heard this morning some very passionate comments from the neighbors about how these applications really will affect them in a very real and personal way. And I also commend them for their bravery and for the things that they all had to say. I wanted to say that I sat in Chris and Tony's backyard yesterday morning at 71 Main Street and marveled at the beauty and tranquility of that setting with its lovely gardens and beautiful, tall, majestic walnut trees. I've never seen anything like them. And they're on Mr. Capill's property as well. Chris and Tony's property looks over into the applicant's lovely lot. It has a beautiful century home and gorgeous backyard lawn and trees. That lawn is a heritage attribute. It stood there untouched since 1871. I then pictured a 5,000 square foot, 2-story home crammed onto that lawn space with very little backyard amenity space. And I thought about what it would do to the beauty that I was experiencing. And I can tell you it was devastating. It would have such a negative effect on the character of this area that I am absolutely stunned after 33 years of practice in this city, all in the downtown, that city staff could even consider supporting these applications. Our downtown is a jewel. The Main Street South property is a treasure that all of us should be nurturing and protecting. These applications need to be refused. I'm not going to get into all of the official plan comments and secondary plan comments that I have, or further discussion about the easements, because that will be for another day if we're actually going to consider this. But I want to say that the neighbors do not have confidence in the applicant's arborist, who has had 5 attempts at this. If the committee is going to consider this deferral, there must be time after it is received, after the arborist, whatever he's going to try to do, is received for our arborist to review it. And it can't just be 1 week like this happened this last time, as you've heard from all of these neighbors. Our arborist is going to need access to the applicant's property because his arborist was able to come onto my client's property and others. This has to be done right if there's any kind of deferral that's going to be considered. But I maintain, and my clients maintain, that the committee should really be refusing this. If you have had a tour of this area and sat in my client's backyard, there is no way that you could consider that this is a good thing for the city of Brampton. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pecken. I believe we don't have any more concerned neighbor.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we have the property owner online, Manoj Kapil, and we have former authorized agent Dave Kapil as well here.
Sure.
Okay, so Manoj
Mr.
Kapil,
Kapil,
please
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Hi, Mr. Chair. No, I will defer to my consultants, Brianne and Martin.
Okay.
Hi there, it's Martin from West Consulting. So it's been a long hour or so, And I've heard all these comments from the neighboring residents and their concerns. And this issue dates back several months. So I think what I'd like to note is that all the material that we've received from the various agencies and departments have no issues or concerns with our application except with this arborist report. And given that we only received the neighbor's peer review, would have been late Friday afternoon, I have yet to delve deep into it with my arborist and our expert. So just like the last speaker had asked for time for their arborist to review our report, once it's complete, we like the time to take ourselves to go through their recent comments, provide an accurate response, and then present that both to the city for their review and the neighbors. With that said, I'd like the committee to consider our request for deferral and enough time for us to walk through this material and present the city with the revised report. And I do intend to have my expert speak with the arborist over at Dugan and Associates to ensure that we provide an adequate response to whatever concerns they've got in their 5-page memo. So those are my comments, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some questions, and I'm sure committee members as well. I can see a comment that, but I don't see from Mr. McCullen, but the other neighbor is referring that Mr. McCullen had some comments to make. I guess I asked a couple of times if anyone wishes to speak a little bit more. I can see, and the committee can see, it's a great interest for the neighborhood. Before we like to move ahead, if anyone wishes to speak for a couple of minutes, you can definitely let our host know, because I can't see everyone in front of my screen. But I would like to ask about to the staff mainly, as one of the concerned neighbor, ask about this arborist report. How long normally it takes to exchange the information and go through, and if the neighbor provide the access, is that something this applicant can also do to the neighbor's arborist? Maybe Martin, you can answer, or the staff can answer.
Sorry, your question.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I can't answer that question. I don't know the answer. I need to defer to the applicant on this one.
So it's Martin here again. So just to confirm, the question is, would the applicant have issues with granting the neighbor's arborist access to the subject property for review? Is that correct?
Yes.
Again, I can't answer that question. It's not my property. I can't give access to lands that I do not own. So unless the owners on the phone here, or rather the line here, are prepared to answer that question, but that's something I cannot guarantee or grant. So perhaps, Dave, if you are over to answer that question.
Right. So is Mr. Capella is going to answer that for the better understanding that if the applicant's arborist went to the neighbor's property to inspect, if some of those arrangements can be made. And back to Martin, of course, you're representing the applicant, so I guess you're authorized to speak, or maybe you can check. But I just want to know, because the reason is, if let's say the committee wishes to defer, and at the next hearing, we just don't want to hear the same story, period.
I can appreciate that. So why don't I commit to this? I didn't get the name of the individual who requested access, but my name and contact information is readily available. And if you want to give me a call, I can speak with you to coordinate how we can get your consultant onto the property.
Okay. So.
Yes, could I make a comment, Mr. Chair?
And who am I speaking with?
This is Chris Hellick. We were the ones who undertook the peer review. And, you know, the applicant is saying that they don't have very much time, but in fact, The applicant's arborist report only got to us a week ago Monday. That report should have been in before this was even added to the agenda, because it was in fact a rationale for granting them deferral in the first place, to provide this report. So in 2 days, we had somebody from a university give a critique, a very thorough critique. So the fact that now they're saying that they don't have very much time, they've had till from last Wednesday. They've already had lots of time. We did it in 2 days, and their arborist has already been on site. Our arborists have not.
Okay, again, I would ask staff to comment about the timing, that typically how long anyone need to review this report, or if how we can have the better communication. I guess when one party is coming with the report, they do send to the Secretary Treasurer, and when the other party does the same, so that's how we all get notified, whether that's the committee or the planning department. So based on so far in the discussion, I would go back to the staff. Typically, how long the staff suggest, what staff's opinion, and if they wishes to speak about some of the comments made by concerned neighbors, as well as by the representative for this application. What is staff's take on it? And at this time, I would ask my fellow committee members to ask any of the question if they may have to anyone. So first to the staff, and then if wants to comment. Meantime, committee members, you're more than welcome to ask any questions you have. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure how long it takes, and we can try and fast track it as best we can, but I would suspect we would need a minimum of 2 weeks to review an arborist report, as well as the peer review and some of the comments by the neighbors. So that would be my suggestion, is at least 2 weeks, and we may need longer, but I can't at this point. It's sort of an educated guess, but we can try and fast track it as best we can.
Okay.
Could I make a comment, Mr. Shatha?
Please.
Yes, it's Chris Hellick. With all due respect to Mr. Caruso, the neighbors have already submitted letters and their position, and we've presented according to the 4 determining factors of how you will approve or not approve this application. And the city has had those letters for over a year in some cases, and since the Heritage Board meeting in other cases, which was in January, and they did not talk about them whatsoever in this planner's report. So now you're telling us you're going to listen to what we've had to say and what we've submitted? I thought that was supposed to already be done. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Alan McClellan here. May I make a comment with respect to the arborist report?
Okay, please, Mr. McClellan, go ahead.
Thank you. I had some lengthy comments prepared in opposition to this, and did not read them because we were speaking about the deferral, and you also have consented to hear anything about the arborist report. But in addition to the independent report, this is the second go round they've already presented. We've had a couple of days only to respond to this, and I just wanted to make certain the committee members are aware that some of the trees along the border of the laneway are actually owned by us. Some have grown over time and maybe have common ownership between ourselves and the applicant. But it is my understanding that that when we own the tree and it's on our property, or if it is a border tree and we're considered to be part owners of the tree, that we must consent to the removal of the tree or significant injury of the tree. And quite clearly, we will not be granting that consent. And the argument by the city planner is also that the streetscape is not going to change from Elizabeth Street South. And basically the streetscape is this laneway, which is a canopy of trees enjoyed by ourselves. It's such an important part of our property, providing shade and enjoyment and privacy. The privacy is to other yards, but also to the street and traffic and pedestrian traffic on the street. And the laneway itself, there is so much traffic there in the fall with photographers coming by and taking photographs of that part of our property and this laneway. It is something that's truly enjoyed by the entire neighborhood. And to have a major construction project will definitely destroy this laneway and these trees and the canopy. And I just wanted to make it very clear that, again, we own some of those trees and we have part ownership of some of those trees, and there is no way we are going to give consent to have these trees removed. And I just want to make that very clear, that the committee is aware of that, and I really don't see what some kind of deferral or giving the city staff more time to review something that's been in front of them for many months is going to accomplish. I think it's just, again, a waste of resources and a waste of our time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCullen. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point?
I have one last comment.
You have to be really quick in that because I need to.
Super quick.
Please.
So yeah, my name is Kimberly. I'm at 72 Elizabeth Street South. The proposed property will be just in my backyard. Just to further what I said, I know everybody's talking about the trees, as we should be, but another thing to consider is just the great variance. So why consider having a deferral for the trees if already the variance that he's asking for in terms of I have a right, according to the bylaw, for my privacy to be maintained. So if 26 feet and 18 feet of property from my house is so far of a variance, then we don't even need to go into the deferral of the arborist report, because already there are so many bylaws that are being broken even without that. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Toffler, please go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies, everybody. My video seems not to be working today. I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. I know we've had a lot of conversation, and I'm here to work with, obviously, the rest of my committee members. I will say, however, from a personal standpoint, that we did request over a year ago 2 items to look at and how the impact of this application would be affected by both the Heritage Impact Assessment Report and an arborist report, or a tree preservation report, my apologies. And where I sat last year is similarly to where I remain at this current committee meeting, and that is that this is not minor in nature. I agree with a lot of the comments from the neighborhood residents that the character and the charm is paramount for this committee to consider. I was not born in Brampton, but I have come to Brampton over 30 years ago. And the key component for me has always been the character and the charm along Highway 10, here Ontario Street, Main Street, its various names that it has along the route. So from my standpoint, any update or any further comments on the arborist report in front of us would not likely make any change to my position in that this is not minor in nature. However, given that this is a significant application, both for the applicant and for the residents, I would be willing if the rest of the committee were willing to defer. But again, understanding that this application in its totality remains not minor in nature, I would appreciate also some comments within the staff report if we do defer, which reflect back to the Heritage Impact Assessment report. So I've given some of my personal opinion. I will stand with the rest of the committee if they do find that a deferral is appropriate, but I am stating that I don't believe this is minor in nature. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knopfler. Before I ask anybody else from the committee to speak, I just want to bring on the record that we do have a correspondence from TRCA recommending conditional approval for these two applications in the event if committee wishes to approve. Just for the record, I wanted to include that. So any other committee members wishes to speak on our comments or concern?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's Christina Marcus. I make.
Go ahead, Ms. Marcus.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I make Ms. Knopfler's comments mine, and I will stand with the committee and my colleagues in the committee if we should come to a deferral, a short deferral. However, I agree that this is not a minor application, and I would like to hear more from the Heritage Committee. That being said, I will defer to my colleagues to see what they have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Marcus. Any other committee member wishes to speak? Seeing none, I would like to go back to the staff if they, for the final time, if they wishes to add something, and to at the end to the applicant if they have something to add, so we can proceed accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We still stand behind the request for a deferral on this item. Before you do have a positive report, and we want to just ensure that if this consent and minor variance is approved, that some of the concerns of the residents are taken into account, and the trees and the heritage impact are preserved as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Chris Halleck responding to that comment, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, please be quick, Chris.
Yes, sir. Protecting the trees as best as we can, sir, is really not good enough when you're talking about 16 neighbors' trees. And we've already submitted lots of material right from the very beginning talking to you about the trees. The Heritage Committee also turned this down when you had told them about the trees. We made a 1-hour presentation. They asked questions. They were wonderful, but they turned it down. Please keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would ask Martin if he wishes to add something on the behalf of the applicant.
Sure. I'll close my comments in that I support staff's position to further defer this application. There is a bit of work that we have to complete to ensure that they're satisfied. And I just want to note that there's been a lot of comments made about the variances and the consent application. But I just want to make clear for the committee that I haven't had a chance to provide my full planning rationale on those items. So my comments have been limited to the deferral only, and that that was my position in terms of the start of this meeting. So you have not received the full rationale from our side in terms of this request for variance.
That's ridiculous.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, it's Martin here. I have no further comment.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, if there's any other comment or question you would like to make? If not, if no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm willing to defer this for no longer than 60 days and with reservations, but I'm willing to go that way.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with my fellow committee members that this isn't necessarily minor in nature, but I'm willing to put forth a motion to defer, but I would actually suggest a motion to defer no later than September 29th hearing, and have it done and with, have the city planning staff have all their ducks in a row and make sure that we have everything available to us for that meeting. If it's not available, then we make a ruling on that date.
Okay, sure. We have two committee members speak on this. Ms. Marcus suggested 60 days and Mr. Power suggested September 29th. I tend to agree with Mr. Power. Sooner is better, but again, I would like to give enough time for the communication. So that will be the final, I guess, hearing. If committee members wishes to go into their side, as the staff indicated the same. I would just like to confirm with Ms. Myers one time that what is the submission for any new information if the committee is going ahead with September 28th or 29th meeting?
Through the chair, if it is the will of the committee to defer to September 29th, the last day to submit any new information is September 1st.
Sorry, Ms. Myers, September?
The filing deadline for new information would be September 1st.
Okay, we still have time. So I guess that's appropriate. Must be enough time for our arborists to properly review theirs and to have access to applicant lands. I'm reading this comment by Ms. Picken. Ms. Picken, if you want to come and quickly say that, I have no problem with that because at the end of the day, we just don't want to circle back the same hearings. We'd like to move ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I completely agree that this needs to be brought to a final decision. And I'm encouraged by what I've heard from the committee members, but there must be enough time for our peer review arborist expert to review whatever it is that is going to be presented by the applicant's arborist. It cannot be another fast 1 week before and we don't have a chance to get onto that property and review it in the same manner that Mr. Capil's arborist has come on to all of the other neighbors' properties. So I need to hear that. We have not heard from Mr. Capil as to whether he'll grant that access. And if he is not going to grant that access, this is a serious deficiency in this process. So I need to hear that condition, that there has to be, I hear, Mr. Chair, that you are certainly wanting that communication to take place and for a fair process to take place. There has to be enough time. And if Ms. Myers is saying that this all has to be in by September 1st, I am concerned about there being enough time, particularly if the arborist drops this new report, whatever he's going to do, a couple of days before that deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Ms. Picken. Well, I guess I asked that question already very loud and clear. By the time, if we are coming back, if we all these answers we got here today, obviously does matter to myself and the fellow committee members, in what way the communication is going. So, and again, not just to the neighbors, to everybody, this is not that the first time we are doing it. So any of the communication or any new information is coming, we do have an idea that in what way or shape or form this communication or this new information is coming. But we'll see how it goes. As staff has indicated, they don't seem to think that they need longer time, as well as I believe even for the new information, at September the 1st, we still have roughly 13 days. So I think, as Mr. Power indicated, that the September 29th hearing is appropriate, in my honest opinion, for us to make that final call. So if anyone wishes to add something right now.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Could we get a commitment from Mr. Capil at this point that he will allow the arborist onto the property to do a report? And then, you know, if need be, because of the September 1st filing deadline, we could look at maybe the October 20th, which is a 3-week period after the 29th of September, for a final meeting and have this decision read.
Okay, sure, Mr. Power, as you suggested. So if the representative for Mr. Capel can respond to Mr. Power's comment and
Hi, it's Martin here. I've made my comments on this, and again, I don't have the power to provide access to these lands. I would have to confer with my client, but I do commit to speaking. Oh.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Capil is on the phone, and to satisfy the neighbors and Ms. Picken, if we can get him to commit to having the arborist on his property within the time frame allotted. If they're not going to commit, then what's the point of deferring any further?
Okay, so I guess I don't see that comment, and the representative cannot confirm if that is going to happen.
Ask Ms. Howard, just give me a call, please.
Sorry, was that Martin? What did you say?
Sorry to interrupt, Chair. I was just suggesting that if we could have Ms. Howard even call me after this meeting so I can arrange how we can have our consultant speak or have her consult on the property.
Okay, so
Martin, I believe, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but I believe, Martin, that there's a request to have Mr. Capil agree. We can't have this left up in the air and have the same problem. I'm hearing Mr. Power say that what is the point of deferring if we can't get that commitment right now? There's no confidence in your arborist, sir, with respect. And there needs to be a chance for our peer review expert to have access to your client's property. And if you cannot guarantee that, I don't know what the point is to give you any more time, sir. Thank you.
Well, I guess both the committee members, they shown their indication towards the time frame. And in my opinion, September 29th, we still have good time to cover all the aspects if that's what the committee is looking. So just for the final time, I would double check with my colleagues at the committee that motion is put forward by Ms. Marcus for September 29th to defer and seconded by Mr. Power.
Through the
If
chair.
that's the motion, I would like to
Through the chair.
hear from them one time, if that's the date they're suggesting, and then I'll call the vote on it.
Through the chair, if I may, we have a motion on the floor from Member Marcus to defer the application no longer than 60 days. We did not have a seconder. Mr. Power, he concurred with with committee to defer, but he was suggesting September 29th. It was not a second to the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. That's what my intent was, to clarify both of my wonderful colleagues that which day they refer. So I guess back to Ms. Marcus, 60 days leave us in the open area. I guess we need to pick a date here.
I agree with Mr. Powell 100% through you, Mr. Chair, that we shouldn't leave it on open-ended date. I like the idea of putting this on the 29th, on September the 29th. And I would also add that this is to deal with the issue once and for all. And, this needs to be dealt with. And I would not want to be seeing anybody else asking for further deferrals, because I would not support that.
And through the chair, if I can confirm, is Member
The first
Marcus...
motion is withdrawn by Ms. Marcus. Ms. Marcus, can you confirm that, please?
I confirm, and I will abide by Mr. Powell's motion, and I will second it.
And through the chair, if we can just have clarity here.
Sure,
Member
I will
Marcus,
that, Ms. Myers. So, motion put forward by Mr. Power to defer this application to September 29th hearing. Am I correct, Mr. Power?
Chair, yes, through the September 29th, but we still haven't had the applicant confirm whether or not the arborist would be available.
Well, I guess their representative has said to give some sort of call. We as a committee have to do what we have to do once the information comes in front of us. As a committee, it's my understanding that we cannot really enforce, I personally cannot really enforce anyone to agree on something. I know you asked Mr. Power very loud and clear, and the answer we got the same, the one I hear. So I guess that's the answer. So right now, what we have in front of us is if we are moving ahead and going to defer this item, and then once we are back, then we'll make the decision accordingly as per the committee's wishes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, motion to defer to no later than September 29th hearing.
Thank you. Motion put forward by Mr. Power to defer this application for September 29th hearing, seconded by Ms. Marcus. We have all in favor. Anyone opposed? Being none, hearing none. So this application has been deferred to September 29th hearing. Again, there was a bit echo, and at the same time, working from home is not an easy task, but we are trying our level best. I would like to thank each and every participant who took their time out of their busy schedule and came forward to us. In my capacity, I have tried my best.
Come here, bud.
I guess the same. Everyone again. We'll see everyone again in September 29th, and I hope we won't have this detailed discussion at that time, as we will be going ahead with the new information only. We had lots of discussion in today's meeting. It took majority of our time, as well as in the last year when we had the meeting. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's meeting and providing their input. Now I would like to ask, because we are still asking about the deferrals and withdrawals, anybody else wishes to have their application withdraw, any other applicant? And I want to thank all other applicants and their agents for waiting for their turn to come. If no other deferral, or as I don't have any written request, this is the time. If I'm not hearing, then I'm moving ahead with the committee's regular procedure. For those unfamiliar with the Committee of Adjustment procedure and process, I would like to give a brief explanation and scope. Following some procedural matter that we have already undergone, the Secretary Treasurer will call the applications by announcing the application number, the name of the applicant, and address of the property subject to the application. The applicant or authorized agent representing the applicant will then be invited into the meeting by the WebEx event host or clerk, with host or Mr. Clerk. I request that you reserve any questions or comment pertaining to the staff report until after planning staff has had an opportunity to present. If there is anyone who has registered to participate electronically who wishes to speak to a particular application, you will be given the opportunity to do so when the application is presented and will be invited into the meeting by the WebEx event host. Any decision made here today may be appealed to the local planning appeal tribunal, previously through the Ontario Municipal Board. Appeal received in the city clerk's office associated with minor variance and consent applications will be processed and forwarded to LPAT. This process may be commenced with the Secretary Treasurer by filing a completed appeal form and filing fee within the prescribed 20-day appeal period. Information pertaining to the appeal process may be obtained by contacting the Secretary Treasurer within the city clerk's office. We now move to the consent applications. Ms. Myers?
Through the chair, we no longer have a consent application listed on this agenda, so I will move on to the first minor variance application. Calling application A2020-0041, Satnish Sharma. The property is located at 179 Major William Sharp Drive.
Host, if you can please call the applicant. Do we have the next applicant?
Sorry, just give me a moment here, please.
Hello.
Okay, Mr. Satish Sharma, your mic is unmuted.
Yeah, I'm speaking.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I said I am here. I'm participating, and this is regarding my house.
Okay, would you like to add anything else, Mr. Sharma, beside the application in front of us?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm an engineer, professional engineer, and I'm 78 years old. I stay with my wife there. We are the two people. And I wanted to make this unit so that, my son could join us subsequently. Now, what I understand, the side stair, which is existing, is about 0.2 feet, which is 2.5 inches, less than 2.5 inches, less than the requirement. So my humble request was that I should be allowed to go ahead with this. This will help me a lot because I don't think I can continue working because I'm still working.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sharma. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none. Anyone else wishes to speak on this application? If not, I would like to hear staff report on this.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's Shelby Swinfield here from Development Planning. Staff have reviewed application A 2020-0041 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number one, that the extent of the variances be limited to the sketch shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. Number two, that the applicant provides a side yard drainage design that ensures that the drainage from the applicant's side yard follows the approved drainage design for the property, is contained within the subject property, and does not impact the adjacent lands to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. Number three, that the enclosure over the below-grade entrance be removed within 30 days of the final date of the committee's decision. Number four, that a building permit be obtained for the below-grade entrance within 60 days of the final date of the committee's decision. Number five, that the below-grade entrance shall not be used to access an unregistered second unit. And number six, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Thank you. Just for the record, I would like to include a letter from Sandra Maynard from 4 Muirland Crescent, stating their concerns and objection in regards to this application. I would like to include that. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Back to Mr. If not, then back to Mr. Sharma. Sir, do you understand and accept these recommendations by the staff?
Not very much I could understand, but if there is something which I have to do this, I will agree to this after talking to my engineer who has made the plans and submitted the plan.
Hello, Satish. I am also available here. I am one of the designers for Satish Sharma here. Okay.
Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jaideep Kadure, 14 Neighbor Cove Close, Brampton, Ontario.
One second, Ms. Meyer, do you have this gentleman's information?
Through the chair, Mr. Jaideep, he is the authorized agent listed on the application. Yes, we do have the information.
Back to the agent, please go ahead.
Yes, Chair. The conditions that were put out as per the request, okay, we will be achieving the building permit for this application, and we have already submitted an application. Then the zoning officials have advised us to go to the minor variance. So we are here for the minor variance approval, so that we can go ahead with the application process for the building permit.
So my simple question is, the staff has put forward their recommendation on behalf of your client. Would you, are you in agreement? You understand and accept those recommendations?
Yes, we would like to get the permit for this. Yes, yeah, we do understand that.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Committee members, if no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed.
For you, Mr. Chair, motion to proceed supporting staff recommendations.
Motion to proceed supporting staff recommendation by Mr. Powers, seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? Anyone opposed? This is carried unanimously. Thank you to Mr. Sharma and the applicant.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair, if I can just verify the mover of the motion. I have the seconder is David Cope.
Mover is Mr. Power.
Thank you. Our next application is A 2020-0042. It's GN Systems Inc. and it's for a property located at 15 Sunpack Boulevard, Unit 1.
Sorry, there is some disturbance at the back. So this application is for GN System Inc. at 15 Sunpack Boulevard. As I see on the screen, Mr. Rogato, I believe you're the one who's representing them?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I would ask one time, beside Mr. Rogato, if everybody can turn their microphone off, requesting again and again because there is a disturbance. So please. Everybody. Thank you. Mr. Gato, please, if you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee, municipal staff, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned by the chairman, my name is Maurizio Rogato. I am the principal of Blackthorn Development Corp., being the applicant and agent pertaining to minor variance A 2020-0042. The variance before you, members of committee, today is to permit the construction of a mezzanine within an existing industrial unit. I'm pleased to advise that this will result in the opening of a new business within the city of Brampton, titled GN Systems, Inc. We've had the opportunity to review staff's report, and my client agrees and concurs with the conditions of approval. Those conditions will permit committee to entertain future requests while being mindful of the requirement for continued analysis of the parking requirements. And I'm always available for any questions committees may have.
Thank you, Mr. Rogato. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? If not, I would like to, before I go to staff, 1 second. Staff, if you can please weigh your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, staff have reviewed application A 2020-0042 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the extent of the variance be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. Number 2, that the requirement for parking for any combination of uses permitted in the M4-1548 zone or permitted by way of minor variance be calculated at the applicable parking rate in accordance with the zoning bylaw and shall not exceed 92 parking spaces. And number 3, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Thank you. Just for the record, I would like to bring this correspondence from same for the same plaza in regards on Sunpack by Miss Maggie Medeiros, station manager, CIRV Red FM, stating their concerns and objection of this application. I don't believe Ms. Medeiros is present here.
I am present. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I'm glad I did not miss. I was just going through fully the written correspondence. Ms. Medeiros, please go ahead.
Well, first I would like to start by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to reiterate a little bit of what I already said in the letter. Like I said, it's not, we know it's a very small mezzanine that is proposing to build. Our main concern is the parking, and we know that it is, even though it mentions 91, and even though the applicant is proposing, if that's what I understand, that he would not be asking for an increase because the capacity has been achieved. I think even though they mention 91 or 92, the capacity really is no more than what it is right now, which is 82, including the 2 disabled. Now, I'm just going to mention a little bit about our business, and what is our concern is this. We are a 24-hour radio station, and we operate on a 24-hour basis. We also consider to be serving 12 different groups, that we are a frontline type of business. Indeed, we get a lot of special guests who bring security teams with them, etc., and we need our parking spots. Even though the applicant is not proposing to increase those because he can't, there is no capacity. When we ourselves had our mezzanine built, at the time there was already no capacity to increase, so they actually created what they referred to as ghost parking spots, which are 4 parallel that they gave us on the building, I believe building B at the rear. So my concern is what's going to happen in the future. Let's say that this mezzanine is not used for storage only purposes, which it is. If it is, we're fine with that as long as we have something in writing specifying that they will not impact our spots, because we got to have our spots available at all times. But we do believe if they decide to use this mezzanine in the unit as office or sales, whatever, that is not storage, it will create, and we must be realistic, it will create much more traffic in the here in the units. And let's also, I also would like to remind you that after we had our mezzanine built for the type of business that we had to have it. Another mezzanine has already been built, right? Like I said, and I sympathize with the fact that the applicant may need, storage, but our concern is really about the parking. And as you know, in these streets, you cannot park. So you're limited to what we have, which is already not enough. So should the applicant decide to use it for any other purpose other than storage, it could become a real problem and a chaos in terms of the parking. So what we ask is that, is there a possibility to, and I reiterate, to have something in writing and make it part of the public record to assure us that, we will not be impacted, and that he will be using this mezzanine only for storage purposes, and he will not at a later stage try to amend what he's getting, or, we never know what could happen in the future. And we depend on what we have, and we cannot jeopardize it because this is our business. And in order for us to service and properly service the communities we serve, we got to have the availability for them to come in and out, for interviews, for reporters coming in and out, staff 24 hours. We cannot risk the possibility of having and jeopardizing our business. So this is nothing against the applicant. In fact, we have a very good relationship with them. We're both part of the board for the FS Residential. We have a very good, like I said, relationship. It's just we're very concerned. If it's not used for storage purpose only, it could affect us. So we ask that you consider, and if you are able to create that clause and make it public in writing, let us know if that is possible. And I thank you for letting us, bring this to your attention, even though we had already submitted our written concern. It's nice to be able to come here and focus on our concerns a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Medeiros.
Yes.
It's my pleasure to include a representative as you from the news station, because it's the opposite. Your station put forward people in front of their hundreds of thousands of listeners and the viewers. So today I got this opportunity, so how I can miss that?
Thank you. Well, you know what? We've been in business for 32 years. But Red FM, yes, is a news station in Toronto. In fact, our predominancy is actually with South Asian and Portuguese languages. And then we have other 10 groups. So we are serving 12 different groups. And as you may understand, there are always things happening, right? So we need to we cannot jeopardize our spots. And even if they say, no, it won't affect, it will affect because there is no capacity to increase them. So where are the people going to park?
So anyway, thank you for your submissions. Back to Mr. Rogato, if you would like to add something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you, Mr. Chairman, I firstly want to say expressly on behalf of my client, as Ms. Medeiros has already outlined, they enjoy a great business relationship, and my client has no intentions to impact their existing business in any way.
Having an issue because ever since I spoke, I have not been able to listen, so I'm not sure if the issue is...
Add more of a parking burden only because the number of employees continues to be, I believe, 2 to 3 persons. The mezzanine is really more for usability of the business.
Mr. Rogato, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, when you start speaking, there was some disruption. So if you can, we just start hearing you back, not more than 5 seconds back. So if you can please talk about.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, my apologies, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure where I was cut off, so perhaps what I will do is start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I unfortunately was not able to review the correspondence submitted by Ms. Medeiros. However, I was listening attentively to her verbal comments, and I trust that those comments capture the essence of her written comments. As I said at the onset of my response, my client, and as Ms. Medeiros has highlighted, enjoys a great working relationship. We have no intent whatsoever to disrupt her business. In support of the minor variance application, a parking justification study was submitted and reviewed by staff. That study determined that the peak demand for all uses combined on the subject lands would be 67 parking spaces, and there's 81 parking spaces today. And of course, we've got that buffer between the 67 and the 81 spaces should the peak demand increase. And lastly, the conditions of staff ensure one of the concerns of Ms. Medeiros being that future requests would come forward and further burden the parking supply. That condition will ensure that any future applicant coming forward would have to meet the rigor of the 4 tests, would likely have to also update the submitted parking analysis. And lastly, what I'll say is my client, should committee be willing, has no issue stating that we would use the mezzanine in accordance with the plans submitted. However, I must let Ms. Medeiros know that the mezzanine is not solely for storage. There are some incidental office use for the 2 employees at the business, and the number of employees are not expected to increase. The business is a telecommunications business. A lot of it is storage. There's very little activity going on at the actual business itself. And, you know, as submitted to you through our application, we believe that this minor variance application meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act in that it is minor, and we were able to analyze the parking carefully. And I want to give Ms. Medeiros assurance that her business will not be interrupted should committee approve the minor variance as recommended by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Rogato. I guess that's good submission by you. Committee members, if no further question, comment, or concern, or if there is, you're more than welcome to join now. Beside that, if Ms. Medeiros wants to add something, you can quickly add as well, if you would like to comment quickly. Then, Mr. Rogato, you already said that you understand and accept the conditions, the recommendations put forward by the staff.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I absolutely do. They're good conditions in that they ensure continued review. Future requests be forwarded to the city.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Medeiros. Ms. Medeiros wishes to speak something. I saw there was a bit blue light where your name is.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, yeah, so do I understand that you don't have a problem in this, when I say you, I mean the applicant as well as the committee, to have this made public, written, and made part of the public record? Because I understand you're saying you will have, Mr. Regato, only 2 members, 2 office employees, but this is now. We don't know what the future will be like, right? So we're not just thinking of right now, we're thinking of the future. So, and like you said, we now have 81 spots. There is, I spoke to the city as well, and there is no capacity to increase these spots at all. So if you don't have a problem to put this, both the committee and Mr. Regato, in writing and as part of the public records, I am okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to Ms. Medeiros, what I did say and what I think is appropriate, should committee agree that it's appropriate, is my client has no issue stating that the mezzanine proposed will be used in accordance with the plans submitted. The parking requirements for the site are not driven by the number of employees, so I believe the better way to cure Ms. Medeiros' concern is to state that the mezzanine will be used in accordance with the plans submitted with the application. I do expect 2 employees, 2 to 3, no more. But again, Ms. Medeiros should know that if those numbers of employees increase, of course, the parking requirements, but perhaps the usability of parking will. And the parking justification study, again, was submitted in support of the application, advises that the peak demand would be about 67 spaces. So my client, of course, everything that's said here is part of the public record, but my client would have no objection should committee want to add, I believe, a 4th condition stating that the mezzanine be used in accordance with the plans submitted with this application. I believe that's fair, and I believe that should cure Ms. Medeiros' concerns, hopefully.
So, Mr. Regato, and to the concerned neighbor, I'm in the opinion that staff has put together these the recommendation I'm satisfied with, the staff has put forward, because simply I'm not in favor of enforcing something which is hard to even achieve, that how many people are working from there. If this is a residential property, then obviously there's a one driveway. When sometimes somebody is working from home, it's a different scenario. Then we know clearly that how many people are working there. But in this plaza, as at the peak, according to the study, if it's 62 versus 81, I guess I am personally okay. Each and every application is different moving forward. Obviously, staff has made that note. There was another application, as Ms. Medeiros indicated, and I recall visiting that area before this application came forward. So in the future, if there's any other application is coming, obviously, whether it's on our time on the committee or the staff has all those record that what has been granted so far and how we need to proceed in the future. So I am personally okay with the staff's recommendation as presented. Committee members, if you have any question, comment, concern at this point, you're more than welcome to join. If not, as Mr. Regato already indicated that they have, he understand and he agrees to, with all the recommendations. Just for the last time, since Mr. Regato has already mentioned about mezzanine, I would just quickly like to know the staff's opinion. I'm not sure if this is the planning or maybe Ms. Corzola wishes to add something on it, but I'd like to move ahead and I quickly want to check with staff and then looking for a motion to proceed.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's Elizabeth Corzola, Manager of Zoning and Sign Bylaw Services. Thank you for the question and just to speak to how the zoning bylaw addresses parking, and in this situation, the parking is not prescribed based on the actual use of the floor area. It is simply a parking requirement for the floor area itself. So regardless of whether the mezzanine were used for completely storage or for the permitted use as dictated by the zoning bylaw for an actual active use of the space, the parking requirement would remain the same. My understanding in this complex is that the parking is not actually, the parking spaces themselves, sorry, are shared collectively among all of the owners of the condominium corporation. I don't believe that the parking spaces are owned specifically by any one unit. Now, that is certainly, those familiar with their condo declarations can correct me if that is my understanding. And that's certainly how the zoning bylaw applies to the site in its entirety. It is not a, the zoning bylaw does not dedicate or specifically prescribe or restrict any number of parking spaces to be used exclusively by one of the unit owners and not the other. So it is a shared parking arrangement. And as you have before you, the total combined parking requirement is based on all of the existing uses, in addition to all of the mezzanines that have been added, particularly the very large mezzanine to accommodate the radio station, which, as Ms. Medeiros had noted, did involve the ghosting in of 4 additional parking spaces to accommodate the square footage associated with that mezzanine back prior to the time it was built. Those parking spaces are included in the overall parking count and can certainly be added to the site at any time if the condominium corporation decides to enhance the property by physically painting the lines for those 4 parallel parking spaces behind this building. That's certainly something that they would have the opportunity to do to physically increase the number of spaces currently available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corzola. Committee members, we have heard all sides. So if no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's Christina Marquez. I propose a motion to approve this application as per the staff recommendations.
Okay, motion put forward by to support staff recommendation by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? Anyone opposing? Seeing none, it is approved unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Medeiros.
Our next application is application A 2020-0043. Bajan Singh Grewal and Gurmesh Kaur Grewal. The property is located at 1572 Queen Street West.
Host, if you can please call the next applicant.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Who am I speaking with? If you can please identify yourself.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Taranjit Grewal, and I'm a planner with Glenn Schnarr and Associates, Inc. I'm here on behalf of our clients, Bajan Singh Grewal and Gurmesh Kaur Grewal, the registered property owners of the property municipally addressed as 1572 Queen Street West in Ward 5. Our client was previously granted approval for a minor variance to allow the outdoor storage of motor vehicles on August 1st, 2017. In addition, prior to the 2014 application, another minor variance for the same use of outdoor storage of motor vehicles was approved for a temporary period of 3 years in 2014. The current minor variance is set to expire on August 21st, 2020. On this basis, GSAI has been retained to advance a minor variance application to continue permitting the outdoor storage of motor vehicles. We are seeking relief from the City of Brampton zoning bylaw to permit an outdoor storage use, whereas the residential Hamlet 1 zone does not permit an outdoor storage use accessory to a permitted use. We thank staff for their comments on the requested variance.
Thank you, Ms. Grewal. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point as we speak? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience or any concerned neighbor wishes to speak? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, we have no one on the list to delegate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Back to staff. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have reviewed application A 2020-0043 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. Number 2, that all on-site improvements require as per the approved site plan application SP 14-066.001 shall be maintained for the entire period of the approval. Number 3, that a maximum of 8 limousines and 1 bus limousine shall be permitted to be stored on the property as per the approved site plan. Number 4, that no reversing into the site from Queen Street West shall be permitted at any time. Number 5, that no cleaning, maintenance, or repairs of the limousine shall take place on the property. Number 6, that the existing dwelling shall be retained for residential purposes and remain as the principal use of the property. Number 7, that no outside storage other than the storage of limousines shall be permitted on the property. Number 8, that motor vehicles, including limousines, shall not be permitted to park on Queen Street West. Number 9, that variance 1 be approved only for a temporary period of 3 years from the final date of the committee's decision. And number 10, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void. Mr. Chair, I think you're still on mute.
Actually, as everyone can hear me, I guess. I was not mute, but I just muted myself and start speaking. My apologies. Back to Ms. Grewal. Do you understand and accept these recommendations put forward by city staff, or you wishes to add something?
First of all, I'd like to thank staff for their support. With regards to condition 9 of the staff report, we would like to request the committee allow the variance to be approved for a temporary period of 5 years instead of 3 years. So this site has been subject to 2 minor variances, both of which were approved over the past 6 years. We've submitted this application initially seeking a permanent variance. We acknowledge staff were concerned a permanent variance could compromise the desired vision of the Springbrook tertiary plan for mixed residential and commercial uses. However, we don't think allowing the variance for 5 years will compromise the tertiary plan development, since this vision will likely not come to fruition for the next decade or 2. Lastly, a 5-year variance will allow an opportunity for the applicant to recover upfront capital costs to improve the site as per the approved site plan. Given the current conditions with the pandemic this year and next year, the applicant's business is not likely to generate sufficient revenue to recover the capital costs, but allowing 5 years would provide 2 additional years for recovery. As such, we respectfully request the committee's approval for a 5-year variance.
Okay. Staff, what's your view on it? I recall this application coming in front of committee 3 years back, I remember, and now we have again in front of us. To me, if they were good for 3 years, I'm okay for 5 years as well. But I'd like to hear staff's opinion about that, given circumstances that many of these businesses got hit by quite the pandemic, as the agent has mentioned. Back to Ms. Swinfield, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, staff have no objections to approval period of 5 years.
Okay. Committee members, if no further discussion, just would like to see what's your thoughts on 3 versus 5, and rest of the conditions are as presented, except number 9 is going to be amended. That's what the applicant has asked, from 3 to 5 years. And if there is any comment or question or anything by my fellow committee members, if not, looking for a motion to proceed.
Through you, Mr. Chair, motion to proceed with staff recommendations and the amended number 9 to 5 years.
Okay, motion put forward by Mr. Powers, supporting amended conditions, including the condition number 9 from 3 to 5 years. and seconded by Mr. Cope.
Yep.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, so this is approved unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
Welcome.
Our next application is A 2020-0044, 241-8851 Ontario Limited, and the property is located at 159 Rutherford Road South.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and city staff. My name is Sarah Clark, and I'm a planner with Glenschnar and Associates as well. I'm here on behalf of our client, 2148551 Ontario Inc., the registered property owner for the property municipally addressed as 159 Rutherford Road South. I'm here today as our client has received an order to comply from the City of Brampton Building Division pursuant to Section 12.2 of the Building Code Act in January 2020. In response to this, Glenschnar and Associates has been retained to advance a minor variance application to permit a law office use on the subject site. We're seeking relief from the City of Brampton zoning bylaw to permit for an office use that is not accessory to permitted use, whereas the M2 industrial zone only permits office uses that are accessory to a permitted use. We're of the opinion that the requested variances respect the relevant City of Brampton municipal policy frameworks, including the official plan and zoning bylaw, is minor in nature and is desirable for the development of the land. On the basis of the aforementioned, we respectfully request the approval of the committee on this variance.
Thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing, hearing none. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Any concern? Neighbor? Seeing none, I guess. Now we go back to the staff. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, staff have reviewed application A 2020-0044 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number one, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice, and that the area of the permitted office be limited to a maximum of 78 square meters or 140 square feet. Number two, that prior to occupancy of the building, the owner shall obtain a permit for change of use from industrial to business and personal service to the satisfaction of the chief building official. Number three, that prior to occupancy of the building, the owner shall contact the city's development finance department and pay any required fees or development charges that may be applicable to the change of use to the satisfaction of the development finance department. And number four, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Enfield. Back to the agent. Do you understand and accept all these conditions?
Mr. Chair, we agree with the staff report, understand and accept the conditions contained within the report, and thank staff for the comments on the requested variance. I also would like to extend my appreciation for staff's cooperation in the interim while we awaited the formal committee date to address the order to comply.
Thank you. Committee members, if no further question, comment, concern, looking for a motion to proceed.
Motion to proceed with staff's recommendations.
By Mr. Cope, seconded by Ms. Droffler. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Seeing none. So this is approved unanimously, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee and staff. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Myers, the committee member has indicated their wish to have a short break. With that, I would like to remind everyone to please be with us. Well, it will be short, 10 minutes break. Mr. Ajit Kumar, if you can make sure that we are back, because I remember in the last hearing when Mr. Fee was here as a host, and we just come back, and the rest of, I think you have to put something on hold, but the rest of the committee will be back in 10 minutes. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, sure, no problem, Ron. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, whenever you feel appropriate.
Calling application A 2020-0045, Andrew Jane, and the property is located at 167 Buford Drive.
Anju Jain, please go ahead.
Through the chair, we're just waiting for a moment or so. There she is.
I do not hear anything. This is Anju Jain. Should I start?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just wait for our Secretary Treasurer, Ms. Myers, to give you a call.
Sure.
Because we need to make the notes.
Sure.
Through the chair, we're just waiting. There's a little bit of a technical issue. Okay, we're ready.
We're all waiting for you, Ms. Myers.
Calling application A 2020-0045, Andrew Jane. The property is located at 167 Buford Drive.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anju Jain, and I am the property owner of 167 Buford Drive. Actually, my intent is to make a legal basement apartment in my property, and for that, I wanted to build a side yard entrance. I had applied for a minor variance last year in October, and I got permitted for a minor variance of 0.6 meter. But at the time of application, the architect did not measure the distance properly and applied for a 0.6 meter variance. With this variance approved, when I try to make a plan, it gives me the door that comes up with this minor variance. It makes it harder for a tenant to move in their furniture, because it is going to be a complete Z-turn for them to put the furniture in. And also the building permit division has sent an email that for this door with 0.6 meter setback variance door, I would have to make a firewall separation blocking the access from the main floor door to the basement. So I want the reason for me to submit this application again is to get an approval of 0.52 meter of setback. This will allow me to make my door for the basement that is in front of the stairs that goes directly from the ground to the basement. It will be easier for the tenant to move in their furniture directly. And also I will have an access to the basement. I don't have to block the access, and I can use the rest of the stairs for my storage. So that's the reason I am reapplying it with the correct setback. It's if I get a variance approval of 0.52, it will be an easy access for tenant to go and move the stuff as well. So that's the reason I reapplied for the minor variance.
Okay, no problem.
I think that's what I wanted to say.
Sure, thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none, anyone in the audience or anyone has already registered in opposition? Seeing none or hearing none from the host. And now I would like to go to the staff. For staff, if you can please read your comments.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the staff report that you've got in front of you is a little bit of a different one, but we figured because the previous variance was so incredibly similar to this one, we would just kind of give you a background update and represent the previous report. So it's staff recommendation that if committee decides to approve this variance application, that the same conditions recommended within the previous staff report be imposed. Those conditions being that the applicant obtains approval from Public Works and Engineering for a side yard drainage design that ensures that the drainage from the applicant's side yard follows the approved drainage design for the property and is contained within the subject property and does not impact adjacent lands. Number 2, that the below-grade entrance shall not be used to access an unregistered unit. Number 3, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. And number 4, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Thank you. Back to the applicant, Ms. Jane.
Yes.
So you understand and
Yes, sir.
accept the conditions, right? The recommendations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, committee members, if no further discussion, I'm looking for a motion to proceed with the recommendations. By staff. Motion by
Proceed with
Mr.
staff's
Power.
recommendation, Ron.
The motion put forward by Mr. Power, seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? Anyone opposed? This is carried unanimously. Thank you.
I just have a question. Do I have to get the permit again because I did the permit earlier for the previous minor variance? So I have to go to and get the permit again as per the condition?
We have only one person to answer this, and that's Ms. Corozola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the delay. I was just looking up the status of that permit, and it appears that a permit is still in the applied status for the 2-unit dwelling, which includes the below-grade entrance. So if there are no changes to the proposed below-grade entrance and the drawings that were submitted with this permit application reflect what is being approved by the committee today, then no additional application is required. If any changes to the drawings need to be made to comply with the building code that reflect the changes here, it's just submission of new drawings. A new permit application is not required because we still have this permit under review.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay, is that answers your questions, Jen?
Yeah, if I can
I
just...
didn't really understand it too much.
Sorry, no problem. I'm just going to be very specific. I've just looked at the building inspector's notes, the person who is reviewing the building permit. And what I understand is that they've asked for revised drawings to comply with the building code. And now that this is approved, I believe you can now submit those revised drawings to them to complete the building code review.
Okay.
So that would be back on your designer now to go and submit the requested information now that you have this approval for the reduced setback.
All right. And one last question, can he do it now within a day or so, or do I need to wait for 10 days for it to be finalized? Can he do it sooner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, he can certainly submit the drawings now, but from a zoning compliance perspective, we would not be able to sign off for zoning compliance until the appeal period expires 20 days from now. Yeah, but he can submit the drawings. He can definitely submit the drawings now.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Ms. Myers, if you can please call the next application. Welcome.
Calling application A2020-0046, Mike and Bev Adcock, and the property is located at 23 Ridge Hill Drive.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have the agent with us, Warner Cram. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Okay. You hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Crumb,
Okay. Mr. Chairman and committee members, I'd like to make the committee aware of to permit the north side yard setback of 1.2 meters. That's an existing condition to the garage wall, which our proposed addition will extend that line. That's a variance required. And that's it. All right.
Okay, committee members, if there's any question, comment, concern. If not, if there's anyone in the audience or anyone already registered to speak, not, then staff, if you can please weigh in your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, staff have reviewed application A 2020-0046 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. Number 2, that drainage on adjacent property shall not be adversely affected. And number 3, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Okay, sir, do you understand and accept these conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, committee member, if no further discussion or question or comment, looking forward to a motion to proceed.
Motion to proceed with staff's recommendations through you, Chair.
By Mr. Cope, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor? Carried. Anyone opposed? None. This is approved with a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Through the chair, I just want to advise that we have CBC comments that should be on the record.
I'm sorry, I made that note. For the record, I would just like to bring on the record that we have a correspondence from Credit Valley Conservation stating no concern and no objections.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Our next application is application A 2020-0047, Kim Thang Lu. The property is located at 166 Bell Chase.
You can have your computer back. You can have your computer back. Yeah.
Sorry, host, if you. Sorry, Ms. Myers, please go ahead.
Calling application A 2020-0047, Kim Thang Lu, and the property is located at 166 Bell Chase Trail.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Mimi Tran. I'm represent Kim Thang Lu. I'm his wife. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the member committee. We would like to ask for permission for a minor variance of an existing driveway width of 7.74 meters, whereas the city bylaw permit a maximum driveway width of 6.7 meters. And to keep the square concrete around the tree, we understood that the city concerned about the health and growth of the tree. We in turn will add more soil yearly to maintain the health and the growth of it. Also, the two-stem concrete slab on the city boulevard to use that wheel out the garbage, green bin, and the recycle bins to prevent mud on rainy and snowy days. Even with the two slab, we're still able to maintain the 2 feet permeable landscape on both sides. So we hope that you will give us the permission. Thank you.
Okay, committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing none, anyone wishes to speak for this application? Hearing none. Staff, would you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff have reviewed application A 2020-0047 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being opposed. Number 1, that the extended portion of the driveway, the stamped concrete portion, shall not be parked on at any time by the whole or part of a motor vehicle. Number 2, that the extent of the variance be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. and that the existing landscaped area between the driveway and side lot line be maintained in compliance with the zoning bylaw. Number 3, that the concrete square around the tree within the city's right-of-way be removed within 30 days of the final date of the committee's decision, and said removal shall be demonstrated to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. And I just wanted to note that staff have included this condition because we are concerned that that concrete inlay within the municipal boulevard will inhibit the overall growth of the tree. So that's why we are asking for that to be removed. Number 4, that the unapproved extension of the impermeable surface within the municipal boulevard shall be removed and the right-of-way be reinstated within 60 days of the final date of committee's decision, and said removal demonstrated to the satisfaction of Director of Development Services, or that the applicant obtain approval from the city's Public Works Department for the works within the municipal boulevard. And number 5, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Back to Ms. Tran. You understand and accept staff's recommendation?
We just asked if we could keep the square as mentioned, like we will try to maintain the health of the tree and the 2 times concrete, because that's gonna help us, like, you know, like when the sidewalk gonna become very muddy and sleepy. So when we put the grass there before, it was very muddy because of the rain and snow. That's the reason why we have it. But on the side of it, we still have 4 feet of the grass for the landscape, for the water drainage.
If
Tran,
Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair, may I make a comment?
Please.
Sorry, it's Elizabeth Corzola speaking. Just in respect to the 2 items under discussion right now, being the landscaped planter square around the tree, that's actually not a zoning compliance issue and not something that's actually within the authority of the committee, except to impose the removal of it through a condition. As an alternative to removal, and this is a feature on city property and would ultimately, even if you were to remove this condition, it would require what's called an encroachment agreement that requires it being entered into with our Realty Services Department. So any features such as this that are put on city property ultimately pose a liability concern for the municipality should anyone trip and fall, or if it is encumbering any equipment, or if something happens that involves that feature on city land. An encroachment agreement will ensure that the property owner is accepting full responsibility for that. It also allows comment by other departments to confirm that it in no way would impede the growth of the city tree. So perhaps if you wanted to consider adding to the recommended condition that the square either be removed or that an encroachment agreement be entered into to allow the planter box to remain, then that's certainly an option for you. In terms of the 2 concrete pad extensions, and I'm assuming that the condition, when it speaks about the removal of the driveway on the municipal boulevard, they're only talking about that portion of the municipal boulevard that is between the street line and the sidewalk, and not, for the most part, most of the driveway that is extending above the sidewalk and then joins onto the applicant's property. That would look, I'm assuming that that's the case, and perhaps Ms. Swinfield can confirm that it's not the intention that you remove, I would say, a vast portion of the concrete above the sidewalk in addition to what's below the sidewalk. But I do want to note that approval from Public Works is generally only required when the municipal curb is being cut. That the committee does have the authority to extend the driveway width, and by definition, the driveway width or the permitted driveway width includes any portion of the driveway that rusts onto the municipal boulevard. In this case, both the portion of the boulevard that is above and below the sidewalk area. So if you were to approve the added width, then generally speaking, it would extend to the portion that's below the sidewalk as well, but certainly approval from Public Works
just to confirm that there are no drainage issues may be appropriate if you would want to keep that, or if the applicant is desiring to keep that, it is an alternative in staff's condition. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's Shelby Swinfield here. Just to kind of go off of what Ms. Corzola was saying, that was our intention with this condition, was referring specifically more so to the portion of the municipal boulevard that's between the sidewalk and the street. And like she said, basically what we're trying to ensure that this has been done in a way that won't negatively impact drainage or landscaping or any kind of municipal interest that could put us in any way at risk.
Okay, thank you. Back to Ms. Tran. Ms. Tran, I'm sure
Yes.
you don't want your clients to have any liability issue moving forward, as Ms. Corzola indicated. So,
Yes, I think we have the house insurance for those, I believe. So can we keep, or we have to remove, because the square concrete is not above the ground. They dig it under the ground, like it's the ground level. It's not like pop up, like this the square concrete around the tree. It's not like above the ground level. It's almost the same at the ground level.
I guess what my general sense is, you know, I'm okay for your driveway, but what you have around your tree, and I can see what you're trying to say, and this is like kind of leveled up with the grass. This is not something, you know, this is not something is coming any obstacle, but since it's clearly an encroachment, and I would not support that. If the tree is on your side and other side of the boulevard, then maybe, sorry, other side of the sidewalk, I could be okay. But I guess if you just bring that into the compliance, you're not losing anything. You're just basically, it's not just for the sake of having there. Overall, if you look at the municipality's perspective, this is encroachment, and then there are other legalities, as Ms. Corzola indicated. There is encroachment agreements and stuff. So I guess your best bet is to let go of that and to bring under the compliance. As far as for the driveway, it looks good to me. It adds the value. So I'm okay to keep it as is, even on the other side between the road and the sidewalk portion. It's not that big, major, and it's obviously adding the value in my honest opinion. So again, committee members, you're more than welcome to speak at this point, but I'm okay to keep the driveway as is, and but to remove any concrete work around the tree.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I concur with what your thoughts are. Remove the concrete around the tree as it speaks to the health of the tree. The driveway, I mean, we see it all over Brampton. It's fine.
Yeah.
So in other words, we can keep the two slab outside the boulevard and just remove the square concrete, correct?
Yes. So back to Ms. Swinfield or Ms. Corzola, is there anything we need to change in the conditions if that's the committee's wishes?
Mr. Chair, I will put that to Ms. Corzola, our condition expert.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. That would be supporting the supporting staff recommendation, except that condition 4 would be removed. So there would be a total of 4 conditions, those being that the extended portion of the driveway shall not be parked upon, that the extent of the variance is limited to what's shown in the sketch, that the concrete square around the tree be removed within 30 days, and then failure to comply with and maintain the conditions shall render the approval null and void. So it removes that condition associated with the reduction of the paved surface on the boulevard.
Okay. So I'm okay with that. Committee members?
Sorry, can you say that again? So the two stamp concrete we able to keep, or we should do something to it? Or I didn't get quite.
Sorry, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. That condition that would require you to remove any of the concrete on either side of your driveway is being removed. So the stamped concrete that forms part of your driveway can stay. It's only the concrete, the border around the tree that will need to be removed.
Okay, perfect. We comply. Thank you so much.
No problem, Ms. Ray. Committee members, if no further question, looking forward to proceed with these amended conditions. Staff has put forward the 5 recommendations, and we are removing so far what the discussions between myself and Mr. Power is to remove the condition number 4. So the condition number 5 will become condition number 4. If no further question, looking for a motion to proceed with these amended recommendations. As Mr. Power already indicated that he concur, so I'm assuming this is his motion. Do we have seconder for Mr. Power's motion, seconded by Ms. Marcus, to support amended recommendations? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Seeing, hearing none. This is approved unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Our next application is application A 2020-0048, Peter Lim and Candice Farugia. The property is located at 7 Terracotta Crescent.
Okay, so we have, Mr. Chair, we have Kamran Ganji, authorized agent. Kamran, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, Mr. Chairman and a member of committee. We have basically putting thing together to get some approval for basically reduce setbacks to the north and the south side of the building, which is not going to be changing any footprint of the building, and also the driveway to be extended in 7 centimeters. Thank you.
Thank you, committee members. Any question, comment, concern at this point? Seeing, hearing none. Anyone from the neighborhood, concerned neighbor, or any other correspondence wishes to speak? Seeing, hearing none. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments? Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Ajit Kumar.
Mr. Chair, sorry, we also have the property owner with us, Peter Lim.
Okay, Peter, would you like to add something beside your agent has already mentioned?
Peter!
Oh my God. That's okay. We'll all come back to Peter, but committee members, if there's anything, if there's no further questions, I'll go to staff to have their their comments.
Good afternoon, and thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Staff have reviewed the application and find that the application A 2020-0048 is supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. 2, that the drainage on adjacent property shall not be adversely affected by the proposed addition. 3, that the shed in the interior side yard be removed and said removal demonstrated to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services within 30 days of the final date of the committee's decision. 4, that the municipal curb be maintained at its current width and not widened. And 5, that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Okay, back to the representative. Do you understand and accept these conditions?
Yes, we do.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, it's Elizabeth. I have one request with respect to the conditions. And that's with condition number 3 regarding the shed in the interior side yard. Can we just specify that it's the shed on the, let's call it the northern interior side yard, or the required interior side yard? It's just the small shed. There are a number of other sheds on the property that are also in an interior side yard. And I just wanted to confirm that it's not all of them that need to be removed, just the small one that's located on the right side of the house when you're facing the house.
Okay, so we would like to add the small or the north side?
Let's say the required interior, that the shed in the required interior side yard be removed.
Okay, that's good, actually. Back to the applicant, the agent, you agree?
I would like if Mr. Lamb is on the line so he can basically comment on this one.
Sorry, who is on the line?
Mr. Peter Lamb?
Oh, so Peter finally came, I guess. That's good. Yes, Mr. Peter, please go ahead.
I know. Here,
Peter Lamb, please go ahead.
hello.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, is this Peter? Peter Lamb?
Hi, it's Peter.
Yes, please go ahead.
I don't know because I'm trying to. So I just had to step away for a minute.
Please continue, Peter. I'm waiting for you.
I don't know one.
Peter.
So we're asking for a variance from the side yard setbacks in terms of building an addition. The current side yard setback asks us for each additional level, aside from the first level, it additional setback of 0.6 on top of the 1.2 setbacks of the first one. Pricing to that we can get a variance from that so that we can build our addition straight up from the existing house, first floor.
Okay, thank you. Your agent already explained that, so I don't think so you need to repeat that. You were away, which is okay, but I need to continue with my meeting. So my straight question to you, Mr. Ghani, do you understand and accept that the new a little word has recommended by staff?
Yes.
Okay, so if I remember, if no further question, discussion, or comment, looking forward a motion to proceed with the amended staff recommendations. By Mr. Powers, seconded by Mr. Cope, all in favor. This is approved. Anyone opposing? Seeing, hearing none. So this is supported unanimously by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just quickly, I would like to remind every future applicant, please be with us and please pay attention on your applications and try to minimize all the background noises. Thank you very much.
Our next application is application A 2020-0049, Balwinder and Amarjit Shran. The property is located at number 10 Treylaven Drive.
I would like to request our host to please keep mute and remove the person right away once the person's application is over. Thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm calling application A 2020-0049, Balwinder and Amarjit Shran. The property is located at number 10 Traylaven Drive.
Hi, Mr. Chair. I would just like to advise you, Balwinder Sran was here with us earlier when we started the session, but they are no longer present with us right now.
Okay, so we'll put this, if Mr. Saran is not here or any of his representative is not here, we'll put this application at the end of the agenda. And meantime, if someone can contact them, whether that's our tech staff or the host. So we'd like to go to there's one more application beside this. So we'll go to that application and we'll keep this one at the end of the agenda. And if they can be contacted by that time, I'd like to hear them out.
Calling application A 2020-0050, Amadeep Gotra and Palwinder Gotra. The property is located at 13 Smallwood Road.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, city staff, all the committee members. So this is for a property 13 Smallwood, and basically what we are requesting is to permit a rear yard setback of 2.38 meter to build a wooden deck of the main floor. This whereas the bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 3.5 meters. Now this property backs to a ravine, and so basically, and also has a kind of a walk-in basement, and so basically, I think that's what we are requesting. So adding a good size of deck will add the feature of the property and the neighborhood as well. So to us, it's a minor variance which we are requesting to committee.
Thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point in regards to this application? Seeing, hearing none. Anyone in the audience or any concerned neighbor wishes to speak on this matter, or they have already submitted in their presentation? Seeing, hearing none. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, staff have reviewed application A 2020-0050 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number one, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. And number two, that failure to comply with and maintain those conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void.
Thank you. Back to the applicant. You understand and accept these recommendations by the staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we understand the condition and we accept it fully.
Thank you. Committee members, if no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed. Motion put forward by Ms. Toffler, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor? Yes. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. So this is approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members, city staff, and planner. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And back to the host. Ms. Ajit Kumar, are you able to connect? Because I see Mr. Saran's name here.
Yes, so we have Balwinder Sran now.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Myers, if you can call the application.
Recalling application A 2020-0049, Balwinder and Amarjit Shran. The property is located at 10 Traylaven Drive.
Mr. Shran, go ahead, please.
everyone hearing me on this WebEx meeting?
Yes.
My first variance is in regard to the exterior side setback. This is required by 8 meter, and I'm proposing 2.07 meter. As per my understanding, the parent zoning in the subject vicinity of this property, the set sidewalk is of 3 meters, and the specific houses in around this houses are subject. They are 8 meters exterior setback required. So in the vicinity, if I see the couple of houses away on the corner lots on Harold Street and Mill Street, they have 3 meters exterior setback. So I'm providing 3.8 meter interior north side, and also moving 1 meter to more in the south side on the neighbors around near the neighbors lot line to save there was a healthy tree near the neighbors lot line. That's in my area, so I'm moving 1 meter towards this. So that's why it's a 2 meter instead of 3.07.
Thank you. Committee members, any question, comment, concern at this point? Hearing none. Anyone in the audience or from the neighborhood wishes to speak are already pre-registered? Hearing none. If
Mr. Chair, I have another variance also that's in the open space area. That's required 70%, but providing 60%.
Yes,
so that's
we already have in our application, but go ahead, Mr. Stern.
So I request this, I submit both of these are minor changes are minor in nature, manner. So I request to be permitted as requested in my application.
Thank you. Committee member, any question, comment, concern? Seeing none. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Staff have reviewed the application and find that application A-2020-0049 is supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. 1, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. 2, that the owner finalize the site plan approval under City File SPA 2020-0003 and execute a site plan agreement and post any required financial securities and insurance to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services. And 3, that failure to comply with and maintain the condition of the committee will render the approval null and void. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strawn, do you understand and accept these recommendations by staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I understand. I accept the conditions imposed by this staff member.
Thank you. If committee members, no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed. I see Mr. Power's hand, so I assume, Mr. Power, your motion is to support staff recommendations?
Yes, sir. Support staff recommendations.
Okay, do we have seconder? Seconded by Ms. Duffler. All in favor? Yes. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. Motion carried unanimously. This is approved, Mr. Strawn. Thank you.
Thank you all of the members and everyone hearing me. Thank you very much to the staff.
Thank you. Back to Ms. Myers, I believe there's no other application.
Through the chair, that's correct. There is no other business today.
Hello? Ms. Myers, there's no other applications, right?
Through the chair, that's correct. We've disposed of all the applications.
Okay, so at the end, again, I would like to thank each and everyone for today's meeting. We had a bit long meeting and there was some disturbance, but again, we were able to achieve an outcome which was supported by all. I would like to thank the technical team, mainly the clerk's office, Mr. Clerk, I can see his name, and also in his absence, Ms. Ajit Kumar helps us out. All the staff and all the people, the neighbors, the concerned neighbors, or whether the applicants or agents, city staff or the zoning staff, I would like to thank each and everyone on behalf of this committee. Looking for a motion to proceed. I meant to say motion to adjourn. So motion to adjourn by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Power. All in favor? Yes. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. So this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.